Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make a wirework butterfly ring, and this is the one that I made here. So this is what it looks like. So you have a cute little butterfly on the front and then attached to your ring band going all the way around, and then it'll sit a little something like this on your finger. So it'll be a nice and flat ring to wear, nice and comfortable as well. So it's a pretty simple and quick one to do, so if you want to learn how to make it, then stay tuned. So it's these materials here that we're going to need. Now I've got two different gauges of regular round wire, and they're both silver plated copper wire in this case. The first one here is a 0.8mm. This is going to be the base wire for the ring band, but also the wire we're going to use to make the butterfly itself. The other one here is a 0.4mm. This is going to be the weaving wire for the ring band. So let's get it together and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is make the butterfly, and for that we'll need one length of a 0.8mm wire here, and I have this about 25 centimeters long. So this is going to make the butterfly on its own, and then we'll make the ring band separately afterwards. So the tool that I'm going to use to make the butterfly, I'm going to be using this 6-step bell making plier here, where you have 6 different sizes, but all perfectly round shapes there. And it's really handy because I want to make sure that the butterfly gets symmetrical as possible. So the top 2 wings, one on each side obviously, are the larger ones, and then on the bottom they're smaller. So using this, it makes sure that they get the exact same size when I'm making my loops. So the sizes that I'm going to be using on my pliers here is the second largest for the top part of the wings, and then the third largest for the bottom part of the wings. So it's these two that I'm going to be using to make the wings of the butterfly. So what I'm going to do is grab my length of wire here, and then I want to start working on making the butterfly shape. So what I want to do is work towards the middle of my wire, so just find where roughly the middle is, and then I'm going to start with my third largest. So out of the 2 sizes I'm using, it's the small one. I'm going to put that roughly in the middle here, and grab hold of my wire, and then, now if your wire has a curve, that's fine. Make sure it doesn't have any kinks if you can help it. So straighten it out, but it's okay if it has a curve, but then I would say point it so the curve goes upwards like that. So just so you're working with the curve, it just makes it a bit easier. But then I'm going to take one side, I'm just going to take the right tail of my wire here first, and bring that back around my pliers on that step, making sure I'm on the step that I want the size to be, all the way around over the top of the other tail here. I'm going to just swap my pliers around and bring it upwards. So basically you're going to have a right angle between the 2 tails, and then just adjust it a little bit, make sure it's nice and tight around the pliers, so it's coming straight up like that. So this is the bottom part, and then we can always adjust it some more. So now what we want to do is make the bottom wing on the other side. So I'm going to place my pliers on the other side of the loop there, so the tail that we haven't worked with yet, making sure there's just a little bit of space between my plier and the wire that we brought up over the other one. So don't put it all the way up against it, because we want just a little bit of space so we can fit this other wire in between there. Because I'm now going to take this tail and bring it around as well, basically in the opposite direction, because this is then going to be the other bottom wing, and this also needs to go over the top of the other side here. So both wires on the bottom here you bring over the top and then straight up again. So these two, the 2 tails, are now going to end up actually lying next to each other there, as you can see. And then we can take it out, have a look at it, see if it looks right and if both sides look even. And this is where we can just keep adjusting it a little bit until we're completely happy. We just want to pull this a little bit more, but making sure that the wires are coming straight upwards. Something like that. That looks pretty good. So that's the bottom part of the wings here. Now we need to make the top part, and for that, like I said, I'm going to be using the large one out of the 2. So that's the second largest on the whole pair of pliers here. And I'm just going to again do one side at a time, and I'm going to grab hold above the 2 loops that I've made first of all, and around, we're going to have to grab around both of these wires that are lying next to each other now. And what's going to happen is they're going to end up actually lying on top of each other, because obviously they were lying next to each other, but they're going to want to kind of cross over. But that's just temporary while we're making these next loops. Then I'm going to make this side first, so make sure you grab the tail that you also used on the same side here. So the loop I made with this wire, I'm going to take the same length of wire that's on the same side and go around all the way around my pliers here. Now in this case, on the top part of the wings, I'm just going to swap position here. We need to actually go underneath the piece, whereas when we made the bottom part we went above. Now we have to go underneath with the tail. And again, when you're placing your pliers onto your wire here, make sure you have that little gap between your pliers and the bottom loops so you can fit your wire in. And keep repositioning your pliers when you have to. And we want to come out to the other side like that, so not straight up again like it was originally, but just a little bit out to the side for now. And then we're going to use that afterwards. So that's the first one on the top. Now to make the other side, I'm going to put my pliers in place. Now obviously the loop that I have here is this large part of my pliers is actually going to be in the way. I won't be able to get it all the way down. So what I'm going to have to do is just maneuver it till I can, so it sits, so I can use that correct size on my pliers there. Making sure I then grab the other wire that I haven't used yet, so you can see out of the two now it's a shorter one, but just the one on the same side that we made on the bottom part. I'll grab that, bring it around the opposite direction around this side of my pliers, making sure I'm using the same step as I did on the other side, all the way around back underneath the piece. Reposition your pliers here, keep bringing it around, and again making sure when you put your pliers in that you had just a little bit of space between the bottom part of your wing and then where you place your pliers, so you can fit in this wire as well. And keep getting it all the way around, and again this kind of coming out towards the other side. And like that. And then we can take it out, have a look at it, make sure if anything needs flattening out you can do that as well. So look from the side if there's any too open gaps or anything. But it looks pretty good to me. And then also see if you're happy with it and how it looks. If anything needs adjusting, you're better off doing that now. I think this one just needs to get a little bit smaller. So you can just roll it a little bit with your hand on your pliers, that way you keep the shape as well. So something like this. There we go. That's now pretty much the basic shape of the butterfly done. So now to make it a little bit more like a proper butterfly shape, because here obviously the wings are very rounded, you could leave it at this if you prefer it, but what I'm going to do is I want a little bit more of that butterfly shape to the wings. So I've grabbed a pair of round nose pliers here, and then I'm going to work on one wing at a time. So I'm just going to start from the bottom, and what I want to do is put my round nose pliers kind of in the middle of the circle here on towards the outside, almost like you say in the corner, and then we need to use this to create that little, almost a little point to the wing. So grab hold of that, keep hold of this with my pliers, and then I want to press against the bottom part of just this wire here, basically press it against my pliers, so like this, so you'll be able to see the top part of the wing on this side moves like that. And then obviously you're going to think it's gone out of shape, but what we then do is I take my pliers out and then keep hold of my loops so they don't go out of shape on the other sides, and then just gently press it back to where it was positioned before. And then doing that, we've gotten a little bit of a point on that wing, which is just what we want. Do the same thing on the other side, so find about the same place, grab hold of it with your pliers, and just try and judge by eye where you think it's going to be even with the other side, so something like that. And then we want to do the same thing, press the wire here, the inside, so kind of towards the bottom, against your pliers, something like this, pretty much just as far as it'll go. Take your pliers out and hold on to everything while you then push it back into place. And try and keep everything in shape. So there we go. That's the bottom part now. So now I want to do the same thing but with the top part of the wings. So you want to decide where you want that little point to be. I would say somewhere around here. Again, grab hold of that place with your pliers, and then I'm going to take this part, so basically the one that's closest to the tail that's coming underneath. I want to push that against my pliers, because you can see then it's just that top tail basically that's moving. We don't have too much movement in the piece. Push it as far as it'll go, so you get this weird looking thing. And then gently, while keeping its shape, push the wire back into position until it's got the same size pretty much that it had before. So the bottom part of that loop meets up with the top part of the bottom one there. And then you can see you get that little point. Same thing on the other side. Find where you want to place your pliers. Try and make it even to the other side, obviously, so you get it as symmetrical as possible. Then push against the bottom part of that top wing. Push the wire against the pliers, so just that long tail that we have left moves as far as it'll go. Then use that tail to push it back down into the right position, and it has the right size again. So something like this. And there we go, we've now put a little points into the wings there, and it really, in my opinion, does make a difference to how it looks more like a butterfly rather than just having the rounded shapes on the wings. So now that I have the basic butterfly shape ready here, what I want to do, we have these tails left, so we just obviously also need to finish them off. But what I also want to do is just secure it a little bit more in place, because it does move a little bit too much right now. So what I'm going to do is go to the back, and then I'm just going to gently push these backwards a little bit so we've got some space to work with. And then you'll find one of them is crossing over the other one. So in my case, it's the one coming from this side is going over. So what you want to do is, we need to twist these two together. So these two tails on the back, and you just want to basically twist them in the direction that they naturally seem to be going now. So it doesn't matter whether you've done the other one over or anything, just twist them in that right direction. And basically just do about 2 whole twists. There we go. Just so the actual twist comes up and stops right where, towards the top of the wings there. You can also look from the front and see, if you're happy, you don't want to see too much of that actual twist, because it's going to basically just lie right at the back behind what will be the body of the butterfly. And then you can always just use some pliers if you want to adjust anything. Because what we need to do now then is these wires need to come a little bit upwards and still have a nice shape, because these are going to get finished off, but what these are going to be actually those little feelers, I don't remember what they're called, but on the top of the butterfly here, and that's also how we're then going to finish them off. But this little twist that we've then put into these wires makes it much more secure as well. As you can see, there's not nearly as much, if any, movement now. So just want to get rid of that little bend that I have right there coming from the twist. But then have your 2 tails here coming out in pretty much the same direction, equal angles, and just as much as you need to. And then we need to cut them down. So how long you want them to be is completely up to you, really. I don't want them to be too long because I don't want them sticking out too much and be able to catch on anything for too much. So I'm going to cut them down, and I would also say rather cut them to be too long than too short, because you can always cut off a bit extra as you go to see if, just so you get it to the right length, rather than obviously if you cut them too short there isn't really anything you can do about it. And cut them both at the same time just so it's more likely that I get them even, the same length, because I want the two obviously to end up being as symmetrical as possible. So I have the 2 little short lengths there. I want to then get my round nose pliers again, and I'm going to just make a little loop on each side to finish them off nicely, so we don't have just these little ends sticking out. So I'm just going to place my round nose pliers here, right towards the tip of my wire. And also personally, I want those little loops to be quite small, so I'm using right at the tip of my pliers as well. Start bending, rolling your wrist here, so you get a nice loop. And obviously I'm rolling it kind of outwards like this. And you basically just want to make a little loop to the very end of the wire, comes in and meets itself. So something a bit like that. Same on the other side. Try and get it the same place on the pliers, so both sides become nice and even. Just roll it down. Until the end of the wire there meets itself basically. And something like that. You can always just adjust it a bit. I'm going to just tighten up the loop a little bit. And also I want to kind of make sure the loops on both sides that they're pretty even. So once you've done that, we're going to have the actual butterfly then is now finished, and it's also more secure because we did that little twist on the back. So we have the butterfly ready and also got rid of the ends. Now we need to do is we need to move on to making the actual ring band. So then to make the ring band, what I've done is I've cut off 2 lengths of my 0.8mm wire here. Like I said, these are going to be the base wires for the ring band, and these are about 15 centimeters each. Now, because it's just literally just a ring band that we're making, we don't need very long lengths. This is even going to be too long, but I still want to make sure I have enough on the ends just to work with afterwards as well. And then we also need a length of a 0.4mm wire here. It's going to be the weaving wire. Now I've just got about 1 meter of it here to just cover the ring band. But how long you need of this really also depends how large you need the ring band to be, obviously depending on the size. So just cut a length, or you could also work off the reel if you want to have as little wastage as possible. And then what I'm going to do to start making the ring band, I'm going to grab one of my base wires here, just because we need to attach our weaving wire first of all. And then obviously the end of my weaving wire, I'm going to put that behind. Now I just want to leave a little tail here on my base wire, because like I said, we just need a bit of length at the end to work with. So I'm just going to use a tiny little tail from the weaving wire to hold on to. Then I'm going to wrap around the base wire twice with my weaving wire. So once and then twice here. Then push my wraps nice and close together. Because you want to make sure when you're doing your weave that your wraps are nice and tight, so the weave becomes as tidy and neat as possible really. Like that. And then I want to start bringing in my other base wire and also go straight into the weave that I'm going to be doing. So I grab that, I lay it above the other one and then on top of the weaving wire there. Now I'm going to be doing the stepped wire weave just for this ring band, but I do have a playlist of different wire weaves that you can do. So what you could do is go and have a look at that and then choose whatever weave you want to that uses 2 base wires, and you can choose whatever weave for this ring band that you want, that you think would look nice. So that's completely up to you. I'm just going to be doing this weave here. So then my weaving wire here is coming out below my base wire towards the back and then towards the bottom. So wrapped it around the single base wire on the bottom here. I'm now going to go across the top of both of them like that, and then again down behind both of them, across both of them again, and then again just straight down behind both of them. So I've now basically wrapped around the bottom of the base wires twice on its own to begin with there when we fastened it, and then the 2 base wires together twice as well. And that's basically what I'm going to keep doing now. So I'm coming down behind, I'm going to go across the top, but this time instead of going across the top of both of them, I need to come down between the 2 to only wrap around the bottom one on its own again. Coming around out the back, around the bottom, across the top, and again down between the 2 base wires. So I'm only wrapping around the bottom one on its own, and again I'm doing that twice. Coming around towards the bottom, out from the back. Again, I now want to wrap around both of the base wires together. So that means I go across the top of both of them, and then down behind both of them, across the front of both of them, and again down behind both of them. So basically that's the second little top that we've made there. The second time we wrapped around both base wires together, and again I'm coming out from behind down below. I'm going to go put it across the top but then go down between the two base wires like that, and push it down really nicely so your weave, like I said, becomes nice and tight, coming around the bottom, across the top, and again down between the two base wires. Just wrap around the bottom on its own. And that is basically the weave. So this is just, like I said, the weave that I'm doing for this. You can use whatever weave you want to, but then whatever weave that you're doing, you want to wrap it long enough across the middle of these two base wires. Again, remember you have a little bit left on each side that we can work with afterwards, but long enough to reach around your finger, whatever size that you need it to be, but not fully, because we then need to have the butterfly around the front of it and the top of the ring, obviously. So around your finger, but so it reaches the sides of the butterfly. So when you reach that point, then all that's left to do then is attach the two pieces together. So I'll show you that when we get there. So I now kept weaving then till I feel like I have a good length that's going to probably fit my ring band. So I'm just going to leave this for now, because what I want to then do is get my butterfly ready as well. So the one that we already prepared here. Now what I'm going to do is get a ring mandrel out, because obviously we want to make sure that we put them together, but also we have the ring the right shape and size as well. If you don't have a ring mandrel, you can always use something like a marker pen that's the right size and shape. But then what I want to do is decide what size I want my ring to be. I just want to place my butterfly onto it and then just gently press a little bit on the wings downwards against my ring mandrel. This is basically just to shape it in place so it sits a little bit nicer on the finger, so it's a bit more rounded against the finger than just parts of it maybe sticking out and sitting, and maybe be more able to catch on things and that as well. So just gently press it against, making sure it still keeps its shape. And something a bit like that. And if anything's gone a bit out of shape, just put it back into shape while we're here, but we still can still fix it before we attach this and the ring band together. So you can see it's going to then sit on the finger, and it's just going to sit nicer having just curved it a little bit around the ring mandrel rather than just leaving it completely flat. So now that that is ready, what we can then also do is we need to then obviously make sure the ring band, the weave that we've made here, fits. So you can either grab something and measure around the ring band and get a rough idea, or you can then take the weave that you've done, put it on the size that you want the ring to be, then start shaping it around and get the ends here towards the front so we can get an idea of the size. As you can see here, the ends of my weave aren't meeting up, but that's exactly what we don't want them to, because we need enough space to put the butterfly in the middle there basically. So just put it around the ring mandrel, and I always like to then go down a few sizes and basically push it tight against there, because when you put your wire around, say, a ring mandrel here, it always wants to then spring open a little bit. So if you go down a bit in size and then let it fall down, open it up, and then it falls down to the right size. So that's what I've done here. So I'm just going to take it out, and then I want to just get my butterfly and I put it underneath and just basically see how it's going to sit. And what we want is the ends of the weave here on each side needs to finish so it fits just right on that little space in between the two wings. That's where we want them to be connected. So it's just to get an idea of whether this is going to be just right, and I actually think it's going to be just perfect size, this. So when we then, I know I have my enough length in my weave ready now, so what I can do is actually get rid of the rest of my weaving wire. And to do that, I just want to take one at a time here, so one end at a time. I just want to continue it so it's coming around like one more time roughly, and then I want to cut off the excess. I'm going to get my flush cutters here, and what I want to do is cut it so I have about 1 millimeter or so left. And then I grab my chain nose pliers and then because right now the very end of the wire is sticking out, so what I want to do is push the end down with my pliers, and then I also like to just roll it a little bit with my wrist in the direction that basically the wrap is going. Because what this actually does then is it tucks the very end in between the two base wires, so whether the end is towards the outside or the inside, it's in between the two base wires, so you won't be able to feel it while wearing it, and you won't be able to catch or scratch on anything. Do the same with the other side. Cut it down so there's just a little bit of end left, so that when we roll that, squeeze it down and roll it with the chain nose pliers, again press it down and then roll it a bit, it gets tucked in between the two base wires, because that really then gets rid of it. So there we go. And always run your finger over it to see if you can feel it. If you can still feel it, you just need to squeeze it a bit more. If you can't, then it's going to be fine to wear as well. So there we go. I now have my ring band ready for connecting with the butterfly then. So what I'm going to do is we need these tails of wire to just go in a different direction. So I want to take my chain nose pliers, and then basically, because right now they're just kind of crossing over each other like that, I want to bend them more just straight upwards basically from the end of the weave where they're coming from, and the same with the other side, because like I said, we need to connect it, so we need these to basically be going through the butterfly to be able to connect them, and just for easiness as well, so have them come straight up, because then the butterfly is basically going to be attached on top of this. And then if you want, you can always just make sure as you're working with it, keep putting it back on the ring band to make sure it keeps its shape, or reshape it if it's kind of gone out of shape, like that. I want to then split up the two tails on each side, so kind of pointing out, so you have a bit of a gap there in the middle, and they're going out to each their own side. Do the same on the other side as well, because now what I want to do is prepare some loops here that's going to be the ones that then connect the ring band to the butterfly. Something a bit like that. So what I want to do is I'm going to grab my round nose pliers then, and then I'm just going to do one at a time, and right where the weave ends basically, so where I have bare wire on the base wire, I want to then put my round nose pliers in there, and then right now I'm just grabbing hold of this one and taking one wire at a time, and then I just want to make a very small loop basically. So if you imagine, I want this loop to only just be as big to be able to basically be the diameter of the actual base wire itself, because that's what we need to connect. So take the tail, go back around my pliers just to get a loop started here. You can see from the side. Now it doesn't have to be perfect just yet, because we can always adjust these as well, because they're probably going to have to be made a little bit smaller, and we're going to squeeze them tight around the frame anyway. But just for now I want to get the loops in place. Do the same on the other side. Make sure the loops are going to sit level to each other. Bring it around. And always readjust your pliers. And see, this is what I mean when I said we don't need that long length for the ring band itself, but we just need to make sure we have tails left on each side, so we have enough to work with here to make these loops, because otherwise that would get quite difficult. And like that, roughly. So when you think they look like they're going to be pretty even next to each other here, what I'm then going to do is cut off the excess, and I always want to make sure I have the flush side of my cutters against the end that's going to be the end of the piece. So cut it. So basically what will be, it'll be the equivalent to making an eye loop here. It's going to be open for now. Cut off the excess here. And like I said, rather make them, if anything, a bit too large, because then we can always go in and cut off a bit more to get them just the right size, rather than say making them too small, and then they won't be able to catch properly on the butterfly. And then I think I just want to open them up a little bit more here. And then that's one side. Do the exact same thing on the other side here, so make your loops in the exact same way. When I've then done my loops on both sides here, now the ring band is ready, and then we'll see about connecting it with the butterfly here. Now what you want to make sure of is, like I said, these are kind of like eye loops. You want to make sure that they're all just open, so just push them all out the ends there, out to the side, because obviously we need to be able to get the butterfly itself into them. So open them up, and then what we'll do is, you have these two wires going next to each other, the one from the top part of the wing and then the one from the bottom wing, and those two are lying right next to each other. We basically need to slot these two loops. One loop needs to go through the bottom wing and one through the top wing. And this is when I said you need to then have them open kind of like eye loops. And then if they're not quite open enough, you can always open a bit more. I need to just open that one out. Like that. And then slot them through. So the ring band itself is going to sit right here in that space between the two wings, so the bottom and the top wing, like that. And what I want to do is kind of do one side at a time, because otherwise it's going to be a bit difficult to work with. It's going to go all over the place. So I actually just want to open the actual wires out a bit more, I can see, to give space for the frame of the butterfly. So you just keep maneuvering this until it fits just right. And then it's going to obviously sit right as well when you put it in place. So something like that. And then we can start closing them up. I need to just get it captured in there just right. So there we go. Now the actual loops sit just capturing each wing there. So one loop is capturing the top wing and one the bottom wing. And that's exactly what we want. So what we can slowly start to do now is tighten these up a bit. So first of all, we want to close them so it's not going to fall back out. So close them back like you would close an eye loop or jump ring, just like you opened them. Just stop the butterfly from coming back out. Because then obviously we need to connect the other side as well. And I kind of want to do that before I get them too tight. So just take your time here, closing them a little bit. And we can always go back and close them more, because we obviously want to make it nice and secure as well. So I'm going to go to the other side and then connect those as well. Make sure the loops are open. And if they're not quite open enough, open them a little bit more. Like that. And then place one loop through each wing. And then slot them in there. Make sure both wings are captured. So when you feel like they are, then we can start closing them a bit more as well. So, well, that one just slipped out. So the bottom wing there needs to go in. And then the top loop slots in the top wing. So like that. Basically, so both the loops again are coming around the frame of the butterfly. And then you want to gradually start closing them up again, just like the other side. Also so the butterfly can not move around so much anymore and it slots in there. So while we continue working with it, it's going to stay in place now. So when you then fasten the two parts together and you think it's nice and secure as well, you can see here it does make a really nice ring, and it's nice and secure to wear, especially also because it's nice and flat. So this is what it's going to look like, and sit something like this on your finger. So it'll be a really cute little ring. It's pretty simple and easy to make as well, and it's quite quick as well. Even the weaving part doesn't take very long. So this is the ring. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make a little Easter design, and this is a wirework ring with some bunny ears on it, and they look like this. And here I just have two versions of it, but it's the same basic principle. This is just where you have both ears sticking up like this, and then it'll sit like this on your hand, your finger. Really cute. Perfect for Easter. And this one, I just flicked one of the ears a little bit to give it a little